I stared at my phone screen in disbelief, my hands shaking, as I read the headline again. Nina Hopkins wins prestigious Horizon Science Award for groundbreaking renewable energy research. My sister had just won an award for my work, my research, my life's passion. I'm Amara, and until today, I thought being a scientist meant standing for truth. I've spent the last 3 years developing a revolutionary method for storing solar energy using organic compounds. Late nights in the lab, countless failed experiments, and endless data analysis, all stolen with a USB drive and a fake smile. Did you see the news? Lexi burst into my lab, her face flushed. Amara, that's your research. How did Nina even— She took my backup drive during Dad's birthday dinner last month, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Remember when she insisted on seeing my lab, said she was just proud of her little sister? The memory made me sick. Nina had always been the golden child, charming, social, the one who could do no wrong. But this was a new low. My phone buzzed again. Dad's message popped up. Family dinner tonight to celebrate Nina's award. Be there by 7. No excuses. You have to tell them, Lexi said, gripping my shoulder. Show them your original research files, the timestamps, everything. I laughed bitterly. You think they'll believe me over Nina? Dad's probably already planning her victory speech. Just then, Logan appeared in the doorway, his usual calm demeanor replaced with concern. Amara, I just heard. This is serious. The demonstration is in 3 weeks. Nina can't possibly explain the complex chemical processes involved. The demonstration? Lexi's eyes widened. Part of the award, I explained, a plan slowly forming in my mind. The winner has to demonstrate their research live, in front of the entire scientific community. Logan nodded. And the media, it's quite the spectacle. I stood up, suddenly energized. Then that's where she'll fall. Nina may have stolen my research, but she can't steal my understanding. She'll have to explain every reaction, every process. Amara, Lexi warned, this isn't about revenge, I interrupted. It's about truth. Science is built on integrity, and I won't let her mock that. That evening, I walked into my parents' house, the familiar scent of Mom's lasagna doing nothing to settle my churning stomach. Nina was already holding court in the living room, surrounded by our parents and a few relatives. Little sis, she beamed, pulling me into a hug. Can you believe it? All those hours in the lab finally paid off. I felt bile rise in my throat, but forced a smile. Congratulations. The demonstration should be interesting. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe? But she recovered quickly. Oh, I can't wait to show everyone. Dad, did I tell you about the organic compound matrix? As Nina launched into a garbled explanation that made me cringe, Dad beamed with pride. Mom kept taking photos, probably for social media. Nobody noticed my white knuckles or clenched jaw. A toast. Dad raised his glass. To Nina, following in my footsteps in the scientific community. I always knew you had it in you. I couldn't help myself. Really, I thought you said Nina barely passed her chemistry classes in college. The room went silent. Nina's smile faltered. Amara, Mom scolded. Don't be jealous. This is your sister's moment. Yeah, Amara, Nina added, her voice honey-sweet, but her eyes cold. We can't all be winners. I stood up abruptly. I need some air. Outside, I leaned against the porch railing, taking deep breaths of the cool evening air. My phone buzzed. A message from Logan. Committee head Sadie Mack wants to meet Nina tomorrow to discuss technical details. Thought you should know. A small smile played on my lips. Nina might have stolen my research, but she couldn't steal years of knowledge. The demonstration would be her undoing. I just had to wait. Everything okay? Dad's voice startled me. He joined me on the porch, concern etched on his face. Dad, I started, then stopped. What could I say? That his perfect daughter was a fraud. That I had proof but knew he wouldn't believe me. He patted my shoulder awkwardly. I know it's hard seeing your sister succeed in your field, But you'll have your moment too, sweetheart. I looked at him, this man who had inspired my love of science, who had taught me about integrity and truth. You're right, Dad. My moment will come sooner than you think. Inside, I could hear Nina laughing, probably spinning more lies about my research. Let her laugh. In 3 weeks, everyone would know the truth, and I wouldn't have to say a word. The next morning, I couldn't escape Nina's face. It was everywhere. Local news, science blogs, even the university's homepage. Each headline felt like a fresh slap. Local scientist makes breakthrough. Hopkins' sister revolutionizes solar energy storage. Turn that off before I throw something, I told Lexi, who was scrolling through news coverage in my lab. Wait, look at this comment section, she said, ignoring my threat. Some people are asking questions, pretty technical ones, that Nina can't possibly. A crash from the adjacent lab interrupted her. We rushed over to find Logan, standing over a broken beaker, clear liquid spreading across the floor. Sorry, he said, looking distracted. Just met with Nina and Sadie. It was interesting. Spill it, I demanded, tossing him paper towels. How bad was she? Let's just say Sadie's eyebrows nearly disappeared into her hairline when Nina couldn't explain basic molecular binding principles. He started mopping up the mess. But here's the thing, Nina somehow charmed her way through it, kept redirecting questions, making jokes about being nervous. Classic Nina, I muttered. She's been doing that since we were kids. Remember when she took credit for my science fair project in 8th grade, Lexi? The solar-powered water purifier, Lexi nodded. Your dad was so proud of Nina. History repeats itself, I said bitterly. The lab door burst open, and speak of the devil, Nina walked in, wearing a lab coat that still had its creases from the store. Baby sis, I need your help. Her voice was sugary sweet. These reporters keep asking such specific questions. Maybe you could explain some things to me. You know, sister to sister. I looked at her perfectly manicured nails, her carefully crafted concerned expression. You want me to help you understand my research so you can better pretend it's yours? Nina's face hardened for a split second before the mask slipped back on. Don't be difficult, Amara. This is good for the whole family. Dad's already gotten 3 calls from major research facilities. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my lab. She stepped closer, dropping her voice. Listen here, little sister. No one would believe you anyway. I have the presentation files, the data, everything. Who are they going to trust? The award winner or the jealous sister? Is everything okay? Sella from the biochem lab poked her head in, eyes darting between us. Perfect, Nina chirped, back to her sunny self. Just getting some sisterly advice for the demonstration. You'll all be there, right? After she left, Lexi grabbed my arm. Please tell me you're not just gonna let her get away with this. I walked to my computer and pulled up a file. Remember that accident with the organic compound matrix last month? The one that nearly blew up the lab. Logan leaned in. The failed catalyst reaction. Exactly. Nina has my successful trials, but she doesn't know about the failures. About what happens if you don't adjust the pH levels. Exactly right. Amara, Lexi warned, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking, I'm not going to do anything, I said, closing the file. I'm just going to let Nina do what Nina does best. Show off without understanding the consequences. That evening, I got another family dinner invitation, this time at an upscale restaurant. Nina had invited local reporters. And then, Nina was saying to an enthralled journalist, I realized we could use organic compounds to create a more stable energy storage system. Under the table, I dug my nails into my palms. Fascinating, the reporter gushed. Can you explain the chemical process? Nina's smile flickered. Oh, it's quite technical. Maybe my sister can help explain. She's also in the field, Amara. All eyes turned to me. Dad beamed encouragingly. Mom nodded expectantly. I took a sip of water. Actually, I'd love to hear Nina explain it. After all, it's her research. The silence that followed was deafening. Well, Nina stammered. It's quite complex, involves multiple chemical reactions. Nina's being modest, Dad jumped in. She's always been brilliant, just like her old man. Later, in the restaurant's bathroom, Nina cornered me. What was that about? What was what about? I thought you understood your own research. Stop playing games, she hissed. You need to help me prepare for this demonstration. Your little passive-aggressive act could ruin everything. I washed my hands slowly. You know what, Nina? For once in your life, you're going to have to face the consequences of your actions. And I'm going to enjoy watching every second of it. As I left the bathroom, my phone buzzed. A message from Logan. Sadie's scheduled a pre-demonstration review. Nina has to explain the entire process, step by step. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and science has a way of exposing the truth. 2 weeks before the demonstration, I found myself in the university cafeteria with Lexi, picking at a salad while she read me Nina's latest interview. The breakthrough came to me during a midnight inspiration. Lexi read, rolling her eyes. I've always been fascinated by sustainable energy solutions. That's rich, I snorted. She called solar panels those roof things last Christmas. Amara, Nina's voice, rang across the cafeteria. She was walking toward us with Sadie, the award committee head. My stomach clenched. Just the person we needed, Sadie said, pulling up a chair. Nina was just explaining the catalyst modification process, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Nina's smile remained fixed, but her eyes screamed panic. Oh, Sadie, we shouldn't bother Amara during her lunch. No, please, I said, sitting straighter. I'd love to hear Nina's explanation first. Always learning from my big sister. Sadie turned to Nina expectantly. Yes, you were saying about the molecular binding. Well, Nina fumbled with her water bottle. It's quite technical. Perhaps we should schedule a proper meeting. Actually, I cut in. I'm curious about how you handled the temperature fluctuation issues during the catalysis stage. That must have been challenging. Nina's face went pale. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. Oh, important call. Excuse me. As Nina practically ran from the cafeteria, Sadie watched her go with narrowed eyes. Interesting, she murmured, then turned to me. Ms. Hopkins, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the research sometime. Perhaps over coffee. I'm sure Nina wouldn't appreciate that, I said carefully. Sadie's expression was unreadable. Perhaps not. After she left, Lexi grabbed my arm. Did you see Nina's face? She's terrified. Good, I said, but my satisfaction was interrupted by a memory. Daddy, look. I was 12. Proudly holding up my science project. I made a mini wind turbine. That's nice, sweetie, Dad said distractedly. Nina, tell me more about your debate team victory. Nina, 16, and already perfect, launched into another story about her triumph. I quietly took my project back to my room, adding it to the pile of achievements that would never be quite good enough. Earth to Amara, Lexi waved her hand in front of my face. Where'd you go? Just remembering something, I said, shaking off the memory. Logan appeared at our table, looking worried. Nina's in the lab, trying to recreate your experiments. She's going to hurt herself, or worse, blow something up. We rushed to the lab. Through the window, I could see Nina randomly mixing chemicals, her movements frantic. Stop, I burst in. That combination is highly reactive. Nina jumped, nearly dropping a beaker. What are you doing here? Stopping you from causing an explosion, I snapped, grabbing the chemicals. These compounds need precise measurements and specific conditions. You can't just mix them randomly. Then help me, she pleaded. I know I messed up, but I can't fail at this demonstration. Dad's already told everyone. His colleagues are coming. Of course, I laughed bitterly. It's always about Dad's pride, isn't it? That's not fair. Fair? I slammed the beaker down. You stole my research that could have launched my career, but you couldn't stand the thought of your little sister succeeding, could you? You don't understand, Nina's voice cracked. Dad never looked at me the way he looks at you when you talk about science. I was just the debate team girl, the social butterfly, never the brilliant one. So you stole my work? I found the drive, and I just wanted him to be proud like that, just once. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered all the times she'd taken credit for my work, all the times she'd dismissed my achievements. The demonstration is in 2 weeks, I said coldly. Better study up. As I turned to leave, she called out, "Remember when we were kids? How we used to pretend we were famous scientists?" Yeah, I paused at the door. Funny how things turn out. Outside, Lexi was waiting. "You okay?" "No," I admitted. "But I will be, after the demonstration." My phone buzzed, a message from Dad. "Dinner tonight. Need to discuss Nina's presentation. Bring your lab notes to help your sister prepare." I showed Lexi the message. "Still think I should feel bad?" "Nope," she said. "Let karma do its thing." I looked back through the lab window. Nina was staring at the chemicals like they were written in alien language. In 2 weeks, everyone would know the truth. The thought should have made me happy, but instead, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. Some family bonds, once broken, can never be repaired, but some truths need to be told, no matter the cost. 10 days before the demonstration, the whispers started. I first noticed them in the research wing. Scientists huddled in corners, conversations stopping when Nina walked by. My sister's confident strut had devolved into a nervous shuffle. "Did you hear?" Logan cornered me by the coffee machine. Nina completely bombed the preliminary review meeting, couldn't explain basic principles of her own supposed research. Her research? Sela appeared behind us, eyebrows raised. "That's interesting, because I distinctly remember Amara explaining those exact processes months ago." I poured my coffee carefully. "I'm sure Nina has an explanation." Oh, she had several. Logan smirked. None of them made sense. The lab door burst open, and Nina stormed in, mascara smeared. "Amara, we need to talk, now." I followed her into the supply closet, where she immediately broke down. "They're all looking at me like I'm stupid," she sobbed. "Sadie keeps asking these impossible questions, and everyone's whispering, and Dad's invited the entire department to the demonstration. And they're not impossible questions," I cut in. "They're basic concepts that anyone who did this research would understand. Please," she grabbed my arm. "Just help me understand enough to get through the demonstration. I'll tell everyone you helped with the research." I stared at her. "Helped? Nina, it's my research. Every bit of it. And you know what's funny? If you'd asked, I probably would have collaborated with you." "You don't understand the pressure I'm under," she hissed. "Dad's always bragging about his brilliant younger daughter, the real scientist. Do you know how that feels? About as good as watching someone else take credit for your life's work, I imagine." A knock interrupted us. "Nina," it was Sadie. "We need to discuss some discrepancies in your methodology." Nina's face went white. I slipped out of the closet as Sadie entered, catching snippets of their conversation. "Fundamental inconsistencies in your understanding. Cannot proceed without clear explanations. Integrity of the award at stake." I found Lexi in my lab, organizing samples. "You're looking particularly smug today," she observed. "The truth has a way of surfacing," I said, checking my phone. 3 missed calls from Dad. Right on cue, he burst into the lab. "Amara, why aren't you helping your sister? She's falling apart." "Dad, no excuses. This is a family moment. Nina needs us. She's under so much pressure." "Because she stole my work." The words exploded out before I could stop them. Dad stepped back, shocked. "What are you talking about?" "The research she won the award for. It's mine. All of it." She took my backup drive and passed it off as her own. That's ridiculous," he stammered. "Nina would never." "Check the timestamps. Check my lab records. Check the security footage from the night she worked late to make her breakthrough. She's never even run these experiments." "You're just jealous," he said. But his voice wavered. "Nina's always been—" "What, Dad? The favorite? The perfect one?" "Well, your perfect daughter is about to humiliate herself and this entire family because she can't explain research she didn't do. The lab fell silent. Even Lexi had stopped moving. I should. Dad turned and walked out, looking lost. My phone buzzed, a text from Logan. Nina just ran out of her meeting with Sadie crying. Committee's calling an emergency session. You okay? Lexi asked softly. No, I admitted. But it's too late to stop this now. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispers and sidelong glances. Nina didn't return to the lab. Dad didn't call again. That evening, I found a single email in my inbox from Sadie. We should talk about your research, the original research. I was typing a response when my door buzzer rang. Mom stood there looking tired. Nina told me everything, she said quietly. She's not well, Amara. The demonstration is in 9 days, I finished. And she's not ready because she didn't do the research. Can't you help her? For the family. I thought about all the family dinners where my achievements were footnotes to Nina's stories. All the times I swallowed my pride and stayed quiet. No, Mom, not this time. She left without another word. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. This is Sadie. Committee meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Your presence is required. I forwarded the message to Lexi, who responded immediately. The house of cards is falling. Looking out my window at the darkening sky, I thought about Nina, probably crying in her apartment. About Dad, his world of perfect family dynamics crumbling. About years of living in shadows and swallowing truth. Sometimes karma needs a catalyst, and sometimes that catalyst is simply refusing to help hide a lie any longer. The committee room felt colder than usual that morning. Sadie sat at the head of the long table, flanked by 4 stern-faced committee members. Nina slumped in her chair, eyes red-rimmed. I took my seat quietly, noting the stack of papers in front of Sadie. Let's begin, Sadie said, adjusting her glasses. Nina, please explain the molecular binding process in your energy storage system. Nina's voice quivered. Well, the molecules, they bind together. Specifically, Sadie pressed, walk us through the exact chemical reaction. I'm just nervous. Nina's laugh sounded hollow. Amara, maybe you could… No. Sadie cut in sharply. We need to hear this from you. The silence stretched painfully. I watched my sister crumble under the weight of her lies, remembering all the times she'd stolen my spotlight with her easy charm and quick deflections. Not today. Perhaps, one committee member suggested, you could explain why the catalyst needs precise pH levels. Nina shuffled her papers desperately. The pH levels are important because the door burst open. Dad strode in, looking like he hadn't slept. I demand to know what's going on here, he announced. My daughter is being harassed. Mr. Hopkins, Sadie said coolly. This is a closed meeting. I've been reviewing Amara's lab records, Dad continued, ignoring her. And Nina's supposed breakthrough timeline doesn't add up. Nina's head snapped up. Daddy, please. When exactly did you develop this research, Nina? His voice cracked. Because according to the lab logs, you've barely spent 10 hours total in any research facility this year. I worked from home, Nina stammered. With what equipment? I finally spoke. The specialized catalysts, the molecular spectrometer, the temperature-controlled environment chamber. Enough, Sadie interrupted. Nina, we've reviewed the security footage from the nights you claim to be working. We've examined your badge access records. We've compared your methodology documents with previously submitted research papers. She paused, letting each word land like a hammer blow. Would you like to explain the remarkable similarities we found with your sister's work? Nina burst into tears. Everyone expected so much. And Amara makes it look so easy. Easy? I stood up, anger finally boiling over. I spent 3 years developing this research. 3 years of failed experiments, missed family events, sleepless nights. You think it was easy? You always were Dad's favorite, Nina shot back. Perfect little scientist Amara, following in his footsteps. That's not true, Dad said quietly. Nina, I was always proud of you too. Your debates, your social skills. My social skills, Nina laughed bitterly. That's what you were proud of, while you bragged about Amara's scientific achievements. Ladies, Sadie cut in firmly. This family drama, while fascinating, doesn't change the facts. Nina, we have no choice but to rescind the award. The room fell silent. The demonstration is cancelled, Sadie continued. We'll issue a public statement. No, Nina pleaded. Please, you can't. The humiliation. Should have thought about that before stealing my research, I muttered. Dad stepped forward. There must be some way to handle this quietly. Science is built on integrity, Sadie said firmly. This isn't just about family reputation, Mr. Hopkins. This is about maintaining the credibility of our entire scientific community. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. A news alert. Questions arise about Horizon Award winners' research credentials. It's already starting. I showed them the headline. Nina slumped in her chair, defeated. I never meant, I just wanted to be seen, Dad finished softly. Oh, Nina, why didn't you just tell me? Would you have listened? She asked. Really listened, not just nodded and asked about Amara's latest experiment? The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. We were all guilty. Nina of theft, Dad of favoritism, me of silence when I should have spoken up sooner. The committee will need your formal statement, Sadie told me. As the original researcher, I nodded, watching Nina gather her things with trembling hands. Dad looked lost, standing between his daughters, unable to fix this with his usual charm and influence. Amara, Nina paused at the door. I am sorry, not for getting caught, but for everything. For all the times I couldn't just let you shine. Save it, I said, turning away. But as she left, I caught Dad's eye. The pain there matched my own. The pain of a family fracturing under the weight of long-buried truths. Sadie cleared her throat. Well, shall we discuss your research properly now, Amara? I sat down, straightening my papers. Through the window, I could see Nina and Dad walking across the campus, their shoulders bent, no longer the perfect father-daughter duo they'd pretended to be. Sometimes victory tastes more like ashes than champagne. The news spread like wildfire. By evening, every major scientific journal had picked up the story. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications and messages from colleagues I hadn't heard from in years. You're trending on Twitter, Lexi announced, sprawled on my lab couch. Sisterly deception and science fraud are the top hashtags. Great, I muttered, trying to focus on my work. Just what I always wanted. Logan burst in, waving his tablet. Have you seen the latest? Nina's given an interview. My stomach dropped. What did she say? Actually, he scrolled through the article. She came clean, admitted everything, says she's seeking therapy for her competitive issues, and apologizes for undermining the scientific community's trust. Damage control, Lexi scoffed. Before I could respond, Dad appeared in the doorway. He looked older somehow, his usual confident posture replaced by something more hesitant. Can we talk? He asked quietly. Lexi and Logan exchanged glances before making themselves scarce. If this is about Nina, I started. It's about me, Dad interrupted, sitting heavily on a lab stool. I've been thinking about what Nina said, about favoritism, about not listening. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He picked up one of my research papers, turning it over in his hands. I was so excited when you showed interest in science. It was like seeing myself at your age. And Nina wasn't me, I finished. I pushed her away, he admitted. Every time she tried to connect in her own way, I compared her to you, to me. I helped create this mess. The lab felt too small suddenly, too full of years of unspoken words. My phone buzzed again. Mom, family dinner tonight. No excuses. We need to talk. She's texted me too, Dad said, seeing my expression. Nina will be there. I can't. I shook my head. It's too soon. Please, he stood up. We need to fix this, as a family. Hours later, I found myself standing outside my parents' house, heart pounding. Through the window, I could see Nina already at the dining table, looking smaller somehow, without her usual confident facade. "You came." Lexi's voice made me jump. She was leaning against her car across the street. "What are you doing here?" "Back up," she shrugged. "In case you need a quick escape." Inside, the tension was thick enough to cut. Mom busied herself serving lasagna, while Dad attempted small talk about the weather. Nina stared at her plate. "So," Mom finally said, "we need to discuss the demonstration." "There is no demonstration," I reminded her. "The award was rescinded." "But your research," Dad jumped in. "The committee wants you to present it, don't they?" Nina's fork clattered against her plate. "Of course they do. Amara's the real scientist after all." "Stop it," Mom snapped. "This self-pity isn't helping anyone." "Then what would help?" Nina shot back. "Pretending everything's fine? That I didn't destroy our family's reputation." "You didn't destroy anything," Dad said quietly. "We did that ourselves, years ago." The silence that followed was deafening. "I got offered a position at Stanford," I said suddenly. "Everyone looked at me. They want me to continue my research there, lead my own team." That's wonderful," Mom managed. "When do you leave?" Nina asked, her voice small. "Next month, after I present my research to the committee." "Amara," Nina started, then stopped. Tried again. "The research, it really is brilliant. I knew it the moment I read it. That's why I—" She trailed off. "Wanted it for yourself," I finished. She nodded, tears falling. "I'm seeing someone, a therapist. She's helping me understand why I always needed to compete with you." Dad reached across the table, taking both our hands. "We all need help understanding some things." My phone buzzed, Lexi checking in. Through the window, I could see her still waiting faithfully across the street. "I have to go." I stood up. "I have a presentation to prepare for." "Amara," Nina called as I reached the door. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I always was. I just couldn't show it right." I paused, hand on the doorknob. Maybe you could come to the presentation, see the research done right this time." The hope that flickered across her face made my chest tight. Outside, Lexi pushed off her car. "How'd it go?" I looked back at the house, at my family visible through the window. "Broken, but maybe, just maybe, not beyond repair." "Ask me after the presentation," I said. "Some experiments need time to show results." The auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Every seat was filled. Scientists, reporters, students, and in the front row, my family. Nina sat between our parents, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She'd lost weight in the past weeks, the designer clothes hanging loose on her frame. "Ready?" Lexi appeared beside me backstage, adjusting my microphone. "Full house out there. Everyone loves a scandal," Logan added, checking the presentation equipment one last time. "But they're about to see something better, real science." Sadie stepped onto the stage, her voice commanding immediate silence. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to witness a groundbreaking presentation on renewable energy storage." My heart pounded as she introduced me. This was my moment. No theft, no lies, just pure research. "Good luck," Lexi whispered as I walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, but I could still see Nina's face clearly. She gave me a small nod. 3 years ago, I began. I started exploring a revolutionary approach to storing solar energy using organic compounds. The presentation flowed naturally. Every equation, every reaction, every principle, I knew them intimately. They were mine. The audience leaned forward in their seats as I demonstrated the molecular binding process, explaining each step with clarity and confidence. "The key breakthrough," I continued, pulling up the critical data, "came when we discovered that adjusting the pH levels of the catalyst could significantly increase storage capacity." A hand shot up in the audience. "Could you explain the exact mechanism?" I smiled, remembering Nina's struggle with the same question. "Of course, the catalyst works by The explanation rolled off my tongue effortlessly. In the front row, Dad's eyes shone with tears. Mom squeezed Nina's hand. Then came the live demonstration. The moment that would have exposed Nina's theft if she'd made it this far. I carefully mixed the compounds, explaining each step. "Watch closely," I said, adding the catalyst. The color change indicates successful binding. The solution shifted from clear to brilliant blue. Gasps rippled through the audience. "And now," I continued, "we can measure the energy storage capacity." The readings appeared on the screen behind me, proving everything I'd claimed. The audience burst into applause. "Questions?" Sadie asked, joining me on stage. Dozens of hands shot up. Each question was more technical than the last, and I answered them all. This was my research, my understanding, my moment. "One final question," Sadie announced, pointing to a journalist in the back. Given recent events, he stood up. "How do you feel about your sister's attempt to claim this research?" The room went silent. I saw Nina flinch. "My research speaks for itself," I said firmly. "Today isn't about what happened before. It's about moving science forward." More applause. As people began filing out for the reception, Nina approached the stage. She swallowed hard. "That was amazing. I never really understood how complex it all was until I saw you explain it." "Nina." "No, let me finish," she interrupted. "Watching you up there, I finally got it. Why Dad was so proud. Why everyone respects you so much. It's not just about being smart. It's about dedication, understanding, passion." Before I could respond, we were surrounded by scientists eager to discuss collaboration opportunities. Through the crowd, I saw Dad talking to Sadie, gesturing animatedly. Mom was wiping tears, smiling proudly. "Dr. Rivera from MIT wants to discuss potential applications." Logan appeared, grinning. "You're going to be busy." "Speaking of busy," Lexi cut in. "Stanford called. They want to move up your start date." Apparently, this presentation caused quite a stir. I looked at Nina, who had stepped back to let others approach. Our eyes met across the crowd. "Give me a minute," I told Lexi, making my way to my sister. "I should go," Nina said quickly. "Let you celebrate with your colleagues." "Stay," I surprised myself by saying. "There's a reception. Maybe you could hear about what this research could mean for renewable energy." Not as a scientist, but as someone who cares about making a difference. She blinked back tears. "You'd want me there?" "Families should stick together," I said, "even when they mess up spectacularly." A laugh bubbled up through her tears. "I did mess up spectacularly, didn't I?" "Monumentally," I agreed. "But today's about new beginnings." As we walked toward the reception hall, I caught sight of our reflection in the window. Two sisters, no longer competing, no longer pretending, just walking forward, together. "Amara," Nina said softly, "thank you for not letting me get away with it, for making me face myself." I squeezed her hand. Sometimes the hardest experiments yield the most important results. The evening after my presentation, our family gathered in my lab one last time before my move to Stanford. Pizza boxes littered the counter as Dad examined my research notes with newfound understanding. "I can't believe I never asked to see your work before," he said, shaking his head. "All these years." "Well, you're looking now," I smiled, showing him my latest data. "See how the molecular structure changes under different conditions." Nina sat quietly in the corner, watching us. She'd spent the afternoon helping me pack, carefully wrapping delicate equipment while we talked about everything and nothing. "Your sister's going to change the world," Lexi declared, walking in with more boxes. "Stanford won't know what hit them." "They already don't," Logan added, following with coffee. The department head called again. "They're fast-tracking the funding for your new lab." Nina stood up suddenly. "I have something for you." She pulled a small package from her bag. "Open it." Inside was a framed photo, me at 12, proudly holding my first science fair project. "Where did you get this?" "Mom's old albums. Look at the back." I turned it over. There, in Nina's neat handwriting, To my brilliant sister, I'm sorry I tried to steal your light instead of helping it shine. Love, Nina. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said quickly. I just want you to know I understand now. What I did was wrong on every level. Speaking of understanding, Dad cleared his throat. I have something too. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter of resignation from his position on the university's board. Dad, no. Yes, he said firmly. I can't stay after everything that happened. Plus, he smiled, it's time to focus on being a better father instead of just a proud one. Mom appeared in the doorway. Are we doing gifts? Because I have one too. She held up a small box. Open it together. Nina and I exchanged glances before lifting the lid. Inside were two identical journals, one labeled Amara's Research and one Nina's Journey. For new beginnings, Mom explained. Amara can document her work at Stanford, and Nina can write about her therapy progress and finding her own path. Mom, Nina's voice cracked. No more comparing, Mom said firmly. No more favorites, just two daughters finding their way. Sadie chose that moment to walk in, carrying official-looking documents. Sorry to interrupt the family moment, but I need signatures. Amara, Stanford's waiting for these transfer papers. And Nina, the ethics committee requires your formal statement. We signed our respective papers, me toward my future, Nina acknowledging her past mistakes. By the way, Sadie added, the committee was impressed with how you handled everything, Amara. They're considering you for next year's award, properly this time. Actually, I said, looking at Nina, I've been thinking about that. What if we turned this whole experience into something positive? A joint presentation on ethics in science. Nina's head snapped up. What? You're good at public speaking, I continued, and your perspective on competition, pressure, and redemption could help others, combined with the scientific principles. That's actually brilliant, Sadie mused. A cautionary tale and cutting-edge science in one package. You'd want to work with me, Nina asked incredulously. After everything. Not on the research, I clarified, but on showing others how to avoid our mistakes, yes. Dad wiped his eyes, not so subtly. My girls, working together at last. Don't get sappy on us now, Mom teased, but she was smiling too. Lexi raised her coffee cup. To new beginnings. We all raised our cups, scientists, family, friends, united in this moment of transformation. You know, Nina said softly, as we gathered the last of my things, I always thought I needed to be exactly like you to make Dad proud. But watching you today, I realized something. What's that? The world doesn't need another you. It needs me to be the best version of myself. I looked around my lab one last time, at the empty shelves that had held my research, at Dad explaining basic chemistry to Mom, at Lexi and Logan, arguing about proper box labeling techniques, at Sadie making notes about our joint presentation idea. Ready to go? Nina asked, picking up a box. Almost, I said, taking one last photo of my old lab, just documenting the moment where everything changed. For better or worse, I smiled, remembering the stolen research, the lies, the pain, and now, finally, the healing. For better, definitely for better. As we walked out together, I realized some experiments yield unexpected results. Sometimes the catalyst for change isn't in a beaker or test tube, but in the messy, complicated reactions between people who love each other, even when they forget how to show it.